After my rebirth, my firefighter husband chose to save his first love. When our house caught fire, my husband called his entire team to rescue his first love who had committed suicide. I didn't call him for help. Instead, I calmly watched as the home I had lovingly decorated burned to the ground in my previous life. He had answered my call. First, rushing to save me while I was pregnant. His first love. Lily had a depressive episode and jumped from the 18th floor, leaving her face completely unrecognizable. My husband told me then that he didn't regret saving me and our unborn child, and we went ahead with the wedding as planned. But on our wedding day, he shattered my world. He broke my legs and dragged me to Lily's grave, forcing me to kneel and apologize. The fire wasn't even that serious. He said coldly, "Nah, you deliberately sent me away so I couldn't be there for her final moments. Lily was so kind. Why didn't you die instead?" When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on the day the fire started. This time, if he wanted to save Lily, I wouldn't stand in his way. She grimaced. I decided to let go as the thick smoke filled the room. I began coughing violently, reaching for my phone. I quickly called 911. The voice on the other end of the line was, "Painfully familiar sister-in-law Alex said you might call." Came the cheerful voice of Andy, my fiancé Alex's best friend and fellow firefighter. I hadn't expected Andy to answer. "Andy, there's a fire at my house. Please send help immediately," I pleaded. As I spoke, the wooden wardrobe near me collapsed, sending flaming pieces flying. Searing pain of the burning embers against my skin made me gasp in agony. But Andy's tone remained light, as though he thought I was joking. "Sister-in-law, stop pretending. Alex already told me you're jealous, because he went to save Lily. That's why you're calling the fire department, right?" He continued casually. "Honestly, the team is stretched thin right now. Don't overreact. It's a matter of life and death over there. You and Alex are about to get married. Don't let petty jealousy ruin things." The fire raged on, growing more intense by the second. Spiny crossed his arms over his chest. I didn't care to hear another word of Andy's patronizing sermon. I hung up the phone and let out a deep sigh, looking around the house that had once held 5 years of memories between Alex and me. I felt a pang of sorrow placing a hand on my belly. I braced myself for the inevitable. I hadn't expected to relive this moment in my previous life. I had called Alex directly. When the fire broke out, he arrived with his team to save me. Lily, however, called him dozens of times that night, but he hadn't answered later. We learned that Lily had succumbed to her depression and jumped from the 18th floor after the disaster. As I clung to Alex in tears, he assured me that he had no regrets. Saving me and our baby, we married as plan hand. And I wore the beautiful Nina wedding dress I dreamed of. I thought I was beginning a new life, filled with happiness. But Alex destroyed it all on our wedding day. He shattered my legs, staining my dress with blood with cold. Detachment, he drove me to the place where Lily had jumped and forced me to kneel in apology before her tombstone even. Now I don't understand what I did wrong. Alex was my fiancé, the father of the child I carried. Even his death could be scarier for me than his previous raging absence. How was it my fault that he saved me? But Alex didn't care. His grief over Lily consumed him. Turning his eyes red with rage, the fire wasn't serious. He snarled, "Nah, you deliberately kept me away, so I couldn't say goodbye to her if I hadn't read Lily's diary. I never would have known how cruel and manipulative you truly are. Her depression is also caused by you. Lily is so kind. Why didn't you die?" I have no idea what he is talking about. But Alex is really crazy. You should also experience the feeling of losing someone you care about, he said coldly. My heart-wrenching. Cries did not inspire the slightest sympathy. He dragged me like a dead dog and locked me in a dark room. I begged him to let me go, questioning our 5-year relationship, but Alex showed no emotion. Instead, he poured gasoline across the floor. The last thing I remember was his face looking down at me, not as his wife, but as an enemy he deeply hated. He took out a lighter setting, the gasoline ablaze. I feel sick when I think about spending 5 years with such a vicious woman like you. He spat. Don't. You love to trick me home by starting fires. Now you'll know what it feels like to burn to death. The pain of being burned alive was unimaginable, searing into my very bones. Even now I can't forget it. I thought I'd escaped repeating the same mistakes. When I didn't call Alex this time, but he acted with chilling decisiveness. Even telling his teammates that I was just acting the pain in my lower abdomen reminded me of the life I carried, of how ruthless this man could be. Alex and I had been together for 5 years. We bought this modest apartment 2 years ago, planning to make it our wedding home. It was small in an old neighborhood, but I didn't care. We were ordinary working class people, and owning a home in city, where property prices are sky high, felt like a dream come true. I had always wanted a happy family, especially after losing my parents early in life. When we were in love, Alex had promised countless times to make me happy, and I believed him together. We chose every piece of furniture I cared for, the flowers on the balcony, watering them lovingly to create a warm, welcoming home. But over time, like aging wires that suddenly fail, our relationship deteriorated, hidden dangers lurking behind what seemed like smooth sailing. One day, I took out our cherished photo album. It held memories of our 5 years together, laughing, smiling, dreaming. He used to joke that this album should be passed down to our children someday, but in seconds it turned to ashes in the fire. He started. Flames devoured the wooden door, the bed and the curtains trapped. My only escape was the window. I climbed out onto the air conditioner unit, clutching the hot window frame. I was 5. Stories up pregnant fallen would be catastrophic. Down below, a crowd of neighbors gathered, their anxious faces turned upward. Hold on tight, they shouted. Don't let go. The fire department is on the way. Coastal California, 7:30 a.m. Fire department's logo, blazing in the third blind character. These people, some I had only met briefly, cared about me more than Alex. The man I had loved for 2,000 days and nights, the man I thought I'd build a life with, remained indifferent. I smiled bitterly, finally understanding what it meant to meet the wrong person. Despite the growing urgency of the calls, the fire department didn't come. Alex had used his influence to divert the entire team to rescue Lily instead. As my strength faded, I lost my grip and fell in those moments of falling. Memories of Alex flooded my mind as I came to in recognition of where I was. I pointed my finger directly toward the nearest Poshmark shop and bit out a message to myself we had met on a blind date and hit it off instantly. We shared simple tastes, both avoiding spicy food, loving movies, documentaries, and caring for plants and animals. I thought we were perfect for each other. He had even sworn before my parents' graves to love me forever. But then Lee returned from abroad. Alex's first love, the night she called. It was raining heavily. Alex, already in bed, left without hesitation. Despite my objections, I should have seen the warning signs. He said she was struggling with depression and needed his help, but she could have sought professional care. Why did it have to be Alex? Their late-night meetings were frequent. Alone together. Time and time again she claimed innocence, but I couldn't believe it. Lily even added me on social media, insisting she didn't want any misunderstandings, but the photos she sent told another story. Pictures of her with Alex watching movies. Alex cooking for her, his profile as he slept. Their hands intertwined when I confronted Alex about these. He brushed me off with irritation, as if I were the unreasonable one. Nah, he'd sigh, rubbing his temples. I'm really tired. I just don't want Lily to commit suicide. There's nothing between her and me. Can you stop making a fuss? Alex watched Lily, faint from the gray clouds scattering behind Lily's house on the disturbing news of his brother's death. Now looking back on his reaction after Lily's death, it's clear that something did happen. He was capable of doing something as insane as killing me and his own child for Lily. I had started a new life, but he forced me back into a desperate situation. My hope had completely vanished. I made a mistake. I made a mistake when I fell. I was fortunate many kind-hearted neighbors caught me before. I hit the ground and shattered completely still. I was pregnant, and the impact was significant. Blood kept flowing from beneath me. When Andy finally arrived with a few colleagues, this was what they saw. I was surrounded by people pale and burned. In multiple places, my white dress was soaked in blood. A chilling sight. Andy pushed through the crowd and rushed to me. Visibly flustered sister-in-law. How could this happen? Didn't Alex say you were just acting? I had no strength from the pain in, my abdomen gasping. I looked at him coldly. Your entire fire brigade only listens to Alex. Whatever he says becomes the truth. The neighbors started shouting. How can you work like this? You're completely irresponsible. We waited almost an hour for that's right. The fire was massive. What if someone had burned to death? Could you take responsibility? She's pregnant. Look at her condition now. It's terrible. Andy scolded into silence, lowered his head and avoided my gaze when the ambulance arrived. He followed me to the hospital, apologizing constantly on the way. I'm sorry, sister-in-law. I really didn't know this would happen. It's my fault. I trusted Alex too much. Nurse interrupted, his rambling. Don't disturb the patient. She's in very bad condition. Are you her relative? Andy shook his head, and the nurse snapped. Then contact her relatives quickly. What if we need a signature later? He immediately called Alex. The call connected. Quickly. Hello, Andy. What's up? Andy? Maybe wanting me to hear? Switched to speakerphone. When I heard Alex's voice, I shuddered in the background. I could hear a girl crying softly. Andy didn't seem to notice and reported my accident. Alex, there was a real fire where my sister-in-law is. She jumped from the building and is being rushed to the hospital. You need to come. There might be documents to sign. Alex sneezed as if he saw through a ploy. Andy, how much did Na pay you to set this up even? If it's true, my house is only on the 5th floor. How could she possibly fall to her death at that moment? A delicate female voice chimed in from his end. Alex is not in trouble. Why don't you go check on her? I recognized the voice. It was Lily's. Do you feel better? Don't worry, Lily, Alex said soothingly. Nah, is just pretending what could possibly happen to her. Be good. Don't overthink things. I'll stay here with you. Okay? His tone was tender, as if he were comforting a child listening to it. Made me sick. He believed every word Lily said, yet doubted everything about me. His double standards were blatant. How could he claim to be innocent? Even Andy couldn't hold back Alex. This is your wife and child. You're comforting your first love, while ignoring their life and death. Are you insane? Alex seemed to move to a quieter place before answering Andy. Who gave you the right to speak to me like this? She's not my wife. We don't have a marriage certificate. If you're so worried, why don't you take care of her yourself? Andy was livid, Alex. You're a complete jerk. I can't believe I trusted you. Alex sneered again. So what? She's too much of a coward to really die. I just wanted to teach her a lesson, so she'd stop causing trouble. Now hang up. I need to get back to Lily before Andy could respond. Alex ended the call. He was so angry that he nearly smashed the phone. Everyone in the ambulance had heard Alex's cold, heartless words and looked at me with sympathy. I took a deep breath. Even though I already recognized how ruthless Alex was, I still felt a pang of pain in my heart. After all, those were my 5 years. Besides, I once loved him sincerely and was ready to form a family with him. I gently touched my lower abdomen, perhaps because of the mother-son connection. The intense pain from earlier seemed to have dissipated a lot. Yet the medical staff's faces grew increasingly pale. The patient blood pressure has dropped. Prepare for resuscitation, one of them said urgently. When I opened my eyes again, it felt like a lifetime had passed. I stared at the white ceiling, stunned as the memories of what had happened flooded back my hands. Subconsciously moved to my lower abdomen, but it was flat the belly that once felt. Heavy and cumbersome was now gone. I didn't cry, but my face itched when I raised my hand to touch it. I realized it was wet with tears. Illiterate, I pulled away, asking a passerby. Alex's mother entered the ward, and seeing I was awake quickly called, "A nurse." She took my hand gently, her voice full of regret. "Ina, you're still young. You'll have children in the future." I said nothing, but I pulled my hand away, making my feelings clear. Her expression froze. Although we'd always had a good relationship, she was Alex's mother after all. Realizing my distance, she sighed. "Nah, I know you've been wronged," she said. "You two have been together for more than 5 years, and I've seen it all now. The wedding date has been set. It hasn't been easy. I don't have a daughter, but I've always thought of you as one. None of us wanted this to happen. This time. Alex went too far when he comes. I'll make him apologize." Okay. I kept staring at the ceiling after a long silence. I finally spoke. "You always say you treat me like a daughter. If you really had a daughter, and this happened to her, would you forgive the man who hurt her? If my parents were still alive, they would never forgive Alex for treating me like this. Do you understand?" My words were blunt, and she froze speechless. Deep down, she knew that if she truly had a daughter, she wouldn't keep urging her to stay with someone like Alex. He had abandoned his girlfriend and child to take care of his first love. Even now, there was no sign of him. Frustrated, Alex's mother pulled out her phone and called him. "Where are you? Didn't I tell you, Knack in the hospital?" She demanded Lily hurt her foot, so I brought her to the doctor. He replied casually, "Nina's not dying. Why are you so panicked?" His indifference infuriated her. "Nah, had a miscarriage, and you're still with someone else. Come here now." Miscarriage? Alex sounded amused. "How could she have a miscarriage? Stop joking, Mom." Then, as if it were some big joke, he added, "Fine. I'll come later, honestly, first. Andy, now you... I really don't know what Nina's done to brainwash everyone." He hung up, muttering under his breath. An hour later, he finally showed up with Lily. She was dressed in a pink floral dress and shrank behind him like a frightened bird the moment she saw me. "Alex, Knack eyes are so scary," she whimpered. Alex immediately turned to scold me. "Nah, how many times have I told you Lily is a patient? Can you stop targeting her?" "Huh." I almost laughed at the absurdity. Alex's mother was just as exasperated. She slapped him on the head. "What did Na do? She's lying in bed and you're accusing her without even knowing the truth. Do you realize she just had a miscarriage? She's weak and needs care." Alex looked at me in shock, while Lily impatiently chimed in. "Miscarriage did. Na really have a miscarriage? This is all my fault. If I hadn't been sick, Na wouldn't have been hurt like this." Her eyes filled with tears, and I couldn't help but marvel at her acting skills. If the highly paid stars in TV dramas acted this well, there'd be far fewer complaints about them. But Alex was clearly the type to be drawn to women who appeared vulnerable. I wasn't surprised to see him falter. Ignoring me, he turned to comfort Lily. "How can you blame yourself for this?" he said softly. "The miscarriage was her carelessness. Besides, if she hadn't caused you so much stress and depression, you wouldn't have hurt yourself in the end. It's all her fault." I sneered and almost forgot about it. In my previous life, Alex told me he saw in Lily's diary that I made her depressed. I couldn't figure it out before I got together with Alex. I didn't even know her. How could I have made her depressed hearing my voice? Alex frowned and walked toward me with an air of condescension. Okay, you did suffer a little this time, he said. But is it necessary to act like this? You ed Lily after the miscarriage. You can just get pregnant again. Why did you ask me to come over? I gently moved my wrist. Alex, can you come closer? I have something to discuss with you. Alex glanced at me in confusion but leaned in, slowly approaching, watching his face get closer. I summoned all my strength and slapped him hard. The crisp slap echoed in the silence of the ward. Alex's face tilted to the side, and he looked at me in disbelief. He seemed never to have imagined I would strike him so ruthlessly. His pupils trembled as he stared at me. The love and expectations I once held for him had vanished. Now he was just a stranger. Alex, let's break up, I said firmly. Alex opened his mouth instinctively, trying to salvage the situation. But then he smiled cynically. Nah. Is this a new trick? You think I'll never leave you? Let me tell you, playing hard to get won't work on me. My gaze turned colder. Alex's confidence stemmed from my past. Every time we quarreled about Lily, I would eventually compromise. I couldn't bear to end things. But he forgot my compromises came from love, from wanting a happy family, from caring about the child in my belly. But now the child was gone. The dream of a happy family was impossible, and I no longer loved him. Why should I compromise? Again, think whatever you want. We don't even have a marriage certificate. We bought the house together and we each paid half for the decorations. Remember to return my share of the money. As for the wedding planner, I'll send you their contact info so you can handle the refund. As I said, I noticed Lily standing behind Alex, trying to hide her joy. Alex, oblivious to her, stiffened and barked angrily. What do you mean? Are you really breaking up with me over this? Alex, you may have misunderstood something. I replied coolly, I don't have the habit of recycling garbage, and about Lily you've said I owed her countless times. What exactly did I do further? She wishes I away and helpless. She's controlled freak. I can't have that. Alex was stunned by my question, and a flicker of coldness crossed his eyes. You and I got together, didn't you? Investigate Lily. You sent an email to her classmates abroad, inciting them to bully her if it weren't for you. How could she have suffered from depression? You should apologize to her. He spoke as though he was delivering justice, his voice growing louder and louder. But Lily looked embarrassed and froze in place, guilt written all over her face. I couldn't help but laugh. Who told you this? That I sent an email abroad to orchestrate bullying? Do you think I'm that powerful or that petty? Alex faltered, but quickly remembered something. I saw your email records. There was an email sent abroad at this point. Alex's mother, who had been silent, finally spoke up. She looked at Alex with disappointment. I asked Na to send that email. Your aunt is a professor at that school. Have you forgotten? Alex's face turned pale. Impossible, he sputtered. Why would you use knack email? Your aunt doesn't check her phone while working. She only checks emails. His mother explained patiently. The truth left Alex standing there stiffly. Slowly, he turned to Lily, who was now utterly confused. Didn't you tell me that Na was to blame? That her actions made you feel insecure? This was about Lena blaming Na and hiding her pain from her husband. It's like this. You just followed my words and blamed Na. Alex asked sharply. Lily didn't dare to look up at him. Alex pinched her shoulder and said, Go ahead. He tightened his grip, making Lily hiss in pain. Frightened, her eyes rend. One drenched hand flew to the nearest window. Yes, I misunderstood, she admitted. But I never, said Na, sent the email, still trying to defend herself. Lily was interrupted when Alex's aunt, who had called overseas to investigate, spoke up. "Lily, I know this student. The aunt said she was exposed for being involved with 5 or 6 men back in the day all of them were in relationships. She was notorious at school later. She got caught cheating on exams multiple times and was expelled. Why are you asking about her?" The aunt put the phone on. Speaker hearing. Her past revealed. Lily crumbled. "No, it's not like that." "Listen to me," she cried, trying to grab Alex's hand, but he shook her off. Alex turned to me, still lying weak on the bed, and smiled bitterly. "Lily, you were bullied because you were a mistress. How dare you blame others for it? I believed your lies and hurt my own woman and child." The disgust in his eyes was clear. Realizing she had lost his sympathy, Lily panicked. She rushed to the window, sitting with one leg outside as if ready to jump. She watched his every movement, from the way he adjusted the towel to the size of his footprint as he walked past her door. "Alex, you said you'd protect me. Do you regret it now?" She sobbed, tears streaming down her face. But this time Alex didn't feel pity. Instead, he looked at me with guilt. "Nah, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was blinded by her lies and hurt you in so many ways, but I still love you. Can you give me another chance? The greatest and fast-moving television in the world," before I could respond. Lily screamed. "Alex, you said you love her? Then why did you sleep with me when you came to my house 2 nights ago?" Alex froze, his pupil trembling. He hadn't expected her to expose their past. Turning to me, he began stammering an explanation, but I remained calm, unsurprised. "Do you think I didn't know?" I said, raising an eyebrow. "You're innocent and kind. Lily always sent me photos. I told you about it a long time ago." Alex's eyes widened in shock. His ambiguous relationship with Lily had always been cloaked in the guise of concern. Now, with the truth out, he couldn't claim ignorance, all right? Lily said, returning with her daughter under my mocking gaze and his aunt's disappointment. Alex realized his charade had failed. Enraged and humiliated, he turned on Lily even. "If I slept with you, didn't you seduce me? You called me over every night, wore lace suspenders, and threw yourself into my arms. I'm a man. What did you expect?" Lily was furious. "Oh, as if you didn't know what you were doing. You came every time I called." Their argument escalated into a vicious exchange, each determined to strip away the others. Pretense Lily, still at the window, initially seemed to be using her precarious position to force Alex to take her side, but as the fight intensified, she slipped. Her hands clutched the window frame desperately as she screamed for help. "Help! I don't want to die!" The entire room froze. "Alex, what are you doing?" "Help her!" I shouted, snapped out of his daze. Alex lunged to grab her, but before he could reach Lily's, strength gave out, and she plummeted. The sickening sound of her fall was deafening. I took a deep breath, feeling neither joy nor regret. Lily was gone. The witnesses, including myself, were questioned. The police uncovered that Lily's supposed ration was a fabrication. Her medical record showed no history of illness. Alex Shattered handed over recordings of Lily crying and threatening to jump if she wasn't depressed. Was all of this a lie? He asked. The police confirmed it. Based on our testimonies, they pieced together the truth. 5 of the unnamed targets were charged with criminal matters, for all of which they were executed. Had Alex's actions not been so egregious, he might have earned some sympathy for being deceived. But now he could only be seen as culpable, without security footage in the ward. Alex's innocence was impossible to prove. Lily's parents demanded compensation, escalating tensions between the families. By the time Alex had settled the chaos, I was already gone. I left the hospital quietly, boarding a train to another city when he called. I answered calmly, watching the scenery pass by. "Nina, where are you?" "Does it matter?" I replied. "Alex, we've broken up." "No, don't leave me. Nah. Please give me another chance." Alex pleaded, his voice filled with desperation. "We've been together for 5 years. We were supposed to get married," I scoffed. "Stop acting, Alex. If you truly cared, why didn't you think about me being pregnant when you were entangled with Lily? 5 years of promises. And yet you caused me to lose my child." Anger surged through me as I continued. "Do you think what you did was a minor mistake? If I had been less lucky that day, neither of us would be here right now. Why would I ever forgive you, Alex? I won't settle for trash. What's more, I already lost my life once because of you. In my previous life, that was the first time I had ever mentioned my past life to him." Silence stretched on the other end of the line so long that I grew impatient and was about to hang up. Then he finally spoke. Nah. I didn't expect you to be reborn too." I laughed bitterly. "There are a lot of things you didn't expect." Alex, just as I was about to end the call, I heard him whisper, "I'm sorry." Sorry, I thought to myself. Those 3 useless words: he destroyed my life, killed my baby, and now thought an apology could make things right. Keep dreaming after realizing I had been reborn. Alex stopped bothering me. He didn't have the energy bossing. In general, I don't know what I do. Word spread about what Alex had done. Andy, a friend of mine in the fire department, along with his colleagues, couldn't stand it anymore. They reported to their superiors how Alex had abused his privileges, wasting police resources on his so-called first love, who wasn't even genuine gossip, spread like wildfire. Witnesses at the hospital that day vividly shared the incident online. Public opinion turned against Alex, and he became infamous. The leader who had once admired him went from suspending him to firing him outright, adding a serious warning to his record. Without his job or uniform, he had nothing left to show off. As for me, I moved on after selling our shared home and keeping half the proceeds. I returned to my hometown and opened a small dessert shop with its beautiful decorations and lush greenery. It became a popular spot in town. I wasn't making a fortune, but life was comfortable. A few years later, I bought a small 60-square-meter house. I lived alone with a cat and a dog, enjoying the peace of my new life. The next time I heard about Alex was through my aunt. She called crying and begged me to visit him. One last time. She explained how he had fallen apart after losing his job and breaking up with me. He suffered from severe depression, shut himself away, and drowned himself in alcohol a week ago. His family forced him to get a checkup only to learn he had advanced liver cancer at just 30 years old. His life was falling apart, perhaps burdened by guilt or despair. He set himself on fire in the house we once shared, though he was rescued. His body and spirit were beyond saving. When my aunt handed him the phone, I heard his weak, labored breathing. "Nah," he gasped. "I finally understand how much pain I caused you. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Please don't come here. I don't want you to see me like this." He rambled on, his voice fading until he passed away. Mid-all, my aunt picked up the phone only to find I had hung up long ago. The voice belonged to my Aunt Eric, and as he died, she had said to me one last time. I had no interest in revisiting that part of my life. Instead, I turned my attention to watering the vibrant flowers in my garden, their colors bursting with hope and promise. This was my life now, full of growth, peace, and beauty. If you like this story, hit the like button and subscribe for more stories like these only at StoryTimes.